Have you ever seen someone so calm, so quietly mysterious, that you couldn't guess who they truly were? Before we begin, this is your channel Grow for Justice, where we bring you the most powerful, emotional, and unforgettable stories every single week. So hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments, where are you watching this from? It was Flight 392 from Seattle to Washington, D.C., just another mid-morning route. The hum of engines filled the cabin, coffee cups clinked, babies cried softly, and flight attendants smiled their rehearsed smiles. The passengers were a mix of business travelers, students, and families heading home. But in seat 14A, by the window, sat a woman who didn't fit the ordinary. She wore a plain gray jacket, her hair neatly tied back, and her eyes carried a silence deeper than the sky itself. She didn't talk, didn't smile, didn't even look up when people brushed past her. She just stared out the window, as if searching for something beyond the clouds. The attendants noticed her calm, almost too calm. There was something about her presence, quiet but commanding, like she belonged somewhere far more serious than this commercial flight. Every time the captain made an announcement, she listened closely, not as a passenger, but as someone who knew that tone, that disciplined point 2 hours into the flight. As the jet crossed into restricted airspace over the East Coast, the captain's voice changed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We are currently coordinating with nearby air traffic control. Everything is fine." But his voice wasn't fine. It trembled. The first officer looked pale. Something was happening outside. From the windows, a few passengers gasped. 2 gray F-16 fighter jets appeared, one on each side of the plane, gliding silently, their sleek forms cutting through the clouds. The sun glinted off their wings. A boy shouted, "Whoa, Mom! Look, fighter jets!" Laughter rippled, but it quickly faded as the jets stayed close. Too close. The captain's intercom came again, quieter now. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been requested to maintain position while military aircraft verify identification. Please stay calm." In the cockpit, tension rose. The F-16s weren't responding to standard signals. They were scanning, searching, and then a strange voice crackled through the plane's communication system, one that wasn't from air traffic control. "This is Falcon 2 to Civilian Aircraft Flight 392. You are entering restricted airspace. Identify immediately." The co-pilot tried to respond. "This is Flight 392, Commercial Airline, Delta Code 9439. We're following the approved flight path." But the F-16s didn't pull away. They kept circling, the passengers whispered nervously. And in seat 14A, the silent woman finally moved. Slowly, she removed her seatbelt, stood up, and walked toward the front of the plane. The flight attendant stepped in her way. "Ma'am, please stay seated." But her tone, her authority, it made everyone pause when she replied, quietly but firmly, "I need access to your cockpit. Right now." "No one's allowed in there, ma'am." The woman pulled out a small black identification badge. The attendant froze. The badge wasn't ordinary. It bore the golden crest of the United States Air Force, and below it, one word that silenced everyone who saw it: classified. The attendants exchanged wide-eyed glances. Without another word, they opened the cockpit door. Inside, the captain turned in surprise. "Who are you?" She didn't answer. She took the co-pilot's headset, pressed the radio button, and said 4 words that made both F-16 pilots stop cold in their cockpits. "This is Commander Viper." The F-16s swerved slightly, as if struck by a shockwave. One pilot's voice cracked through the frequency. "Commander, Mom? Is that really you?" The cabin crew watched in confusion as the woman's face remained emotionless, her voice steady. "Falcon 2, Falcon 3, verify code Echo 7 Bravo." The silence on the frequency was deafening. Then came the reply, trembling. "Code verified, Commander. We thought you were gone." The captain and co-pilot looked at each other in disbelief. The woman, this quiet passenger, had just taken control of a military communication line mid-flight. "Continue your escort," she ordered, her tone firm. "Stand down on visual aggression. This flight is civilian priority." "Yes, ma'am," came the answer. Both F-16s tilted their wings slightly, a gesture of respect. In the cockpit, the captain whispered, "Commander Viper. I've heard that name before." She cut him off. "No names. Not now." Outside, the passengers peered through the windows as the F-16s fell back slightly, flying in formation. The woman handed the headset back, her expression unreadable. "Maintain heading, Captain. You're clear." Then she turned to leave. Before she could reach her seat, a man in the aisle stopped her. "Excuse me, were you just talking to the Air Force?" She hesitated, then smiled faintly for the first time. Something like that. Word spread fast through the cabin. "Who is she?" "She just spoke to fighter pilots. They called her Commander." But she ignored the whispers, sat down, and looked back out the window as the F-16s remained close, following like loyal guardians. What no one knew was that Commander Viper wasn't just a pilot. She had been one of the most decorated female fighter leaders in Air Force history. Years ago, her jet had been shot down over foreign territory during a covert rescue mission. She was declared missing in action, officially gone, but she had survived, quietly returned home, retired in secrecy. For years, she'd lived a peaceful, hidden life, avoiding questions, avoiding headlines. Until this day. The military radar system had flagged her presence on that flight when her name appeared on the manifest. They hadn't believed it was really her. The F-16s were sent to confirm, and when her voice came through that channel, every pilot who had ever trained under her froze. Because Viper wasn't just a call sign. It was legend. As the flight continued, the passengers gradually relaxed, unaware of how close they'd come to chaos. The woman closed her eyes, remembering the sound of engines, the feel of flight, the voices of those she'd led into battle. Her past had followed her home. When they landed in D.C., the passengers clapped for the crew, thinking it was just a safe flight. But outside the airport window, parked near the runway, stood two Air Force black SUVs. No logos, just presence. She stepped off the plane quietly. No fanfare, no media. But the moment her boots touched the tarmac, two uniformed officers saluted her. "Welcome back, Commander." She nodded, said nothing, and disappeared into the vehicle. The passengers watched from the windows, stunned. "Who was she?" a man asked. The captain looked back, voice soft. "The sky knows her name." That's how one woman's silence turned into a moment of history. Sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest stories, and sometimes a single voice, spoken at the right moment, can make even the toughest warriors freeze mid-air. This was her story, and you just watched it here on Grow for Justice, the channel that brings you stories of courage, mystery, and truth that deserve to be heard. If you felt that rush, that chill down your spine, then hit subscribe right now, and tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching this from? Because stories like this connect us all, from the ground to the sky and beyond.